Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. And today's episode, I thought it was interesting to do because Lauren and I have found that when we do readings, Akashic Records readings, a lot of times typical questions will be like the person understanding or trying to find out their mission or purpose. And a lot of time questions come in about like karma and lessons. And I find that sometimes people confuse. Yeah. That's right. That's the word. Sometimes people confuse a purpose or a mission with a karma lesson.
Which, when you brought that up, and I realized that might have been something that I also see in readings, but I guess because I always understood the concept pretty clearly, but it makes sense that people would confuse it sometimes because sometimes, and we'll go into that obviously, sometimes I do feel like there were past lives. This isn't for everybody. I feel like there's been people I've done readings for. I don't remember who or in what context or what questions they asked exactly. But it was important for them to be in their purpose and mission in this life because of past lessons that weren't learned. Yes. So they were tied, but they were completely separate.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But before that, let's... I just want to remind everybody, before we get started on this Akashic Record episode, we're doing a bit of a theme here for the next couple of weeks, I believe, where we're just going to be talking about Akashic Records. And this ties into the sale that we have running at the moment, which is 20% off. 3 of our courses, actually, and they're all related to the Akashic Records. One is Akashic Record Level 1, Akashic Record Level 2, and Soul Contracts within the Akashic Records. So Level 1 is when you learn to read your own Akashic Records. Level 2 is when you become a reader for other people. And the Soul Contracts in the Akashic Records course is a shorter, smaller course that complements both of these Level 1 and Level 2 courses because it helps you understand soul contracts and can help you go deeper within your own records or other people's records. And I think it's something that when people come to a reading, it's really what you look at. You look at soul contracts so deeply, and that's what gives people the answers that they need. It gives them the information, the depth. And that's where I feel, at least personally, it's been my own kind of experience and my experience with others giving people readings, that's what helps them understand themselves deeper, because your soul is chosen to be here for a reason. It needs to understand certain things, and it gives you the depth that I think other readings might not. So yeah, those three courses are on super sale right now, 20% off, like I said. I'll have the link to each of the courses, and I'll also mention the discount code. So you'll need to put the discount code in checkout. That's how you apply the discount to the final price. So make sure you take advantage of it. It's until the end of the month, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I just checked. So it's exactly 2 weeks. So this episode comes out on Monday. It's exactly 2 weeks.
2 weeks, correct.
And then the sale ends.
Yeah, and then if you guys have any questions in regard to the courses, if you want more information, each landing page of the course that I'll have linked will explain each course pretty well and what you get out of the course. You also get access to our private Facebook group with the community. If you're looking for a community to help practice, a lot of people have joined our community, the Soul Tribe Podcast community, or Patreon page, whatever you guys want to refer to it as. And they've received a lot of support there for practicing on others and for being open and for connecting with other people that are also working on their gifts, or just people that are just starting to immerse themselves in the spiritual world, and they're looking for people to talk to communicate with, to understand them. And it's a very open, honest kind of group. Beautiful energy. So yeah. I'll have also the community linked below, but with level 1, level 2, you get access to the private Facebook group where you have access to us. You can send us a message, you can ask us anything, you can communicate with us, and we help answer any questions.
Yeah, I would just like to say, like, those two the 3 courses. So the course that Lorena was just talking about, which is the grounding, we channeled that. We never even thought about creating
the soul contract.
Yeah.
You said grounding.
Oh, well, that one's another course. I don't know why I said grounding.
I'm like, grounding, what?
Well, we have 2 courses. We have a grounding one, but this is, the soul contract, sorry. So the soul contract course, it was all channeled, and it was basically to help readers further dive into reading either their own Akashic Records, but I think it was more focused on people that were doing level 2, that was like learning for other people to understand it, because it's a very much more visual thing. And if you've done level 1 and level 2, you understand the difference between them. And then level 1 being you read your own Akashic Records, and there's not so much visual work, and it's more automatic writing like stuff. And so level 2 teaches you to read other people, and then we think it's almost like a complementary course. It's like it helps you understand aspects of the contract, which is literally inside of the Akashic book when you read the person's Akashic Records.
Yeah, exactly. It helps bring so much light to issues. It helps you understand things. And like we always say, like we've talked about this on the podcast a lot of times, where you can channel through whatever you understand. So like Lou is fascinated by the cosmos and the energy and universes and
all the origins of our soul,
the origins of the
before
soul.
Earth, and like
so she channels that information so easily. For me, I'll get information, but not like Lou. Like it's not something my brain even seeks that information out outside of a reading. So we have to play on those strengths of those, like whatever we feel passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. So study, keep looking. And this goes for anybody just in the intuitive sense, but especially if you're in the Akashic Records. But yeah, I like what you said, Luke, because level 2 really is more connected. I feel like people will get probably more out of it if they do level 2 for helping others, for sure.
And then both level 1 and level 2 is literally the course that Lorena and I wish that existed. We had read all the books about Akashic Records after we learned. We had looked into other kind of courses, and to be honest with you, this was the course that we wish had been created for us when we first started. So it was, I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years. Lorena, you started learning to yarn around the same time, right?
I did level 1 this around just a little bit after you.
Which is funny because a lot of people are just finding out about this. Or that we have a lot of people who like found out about this maybe 3 years ago. Like we were already fully immersed in the Akashic Records world 14 years ago. I think because I don't know if the rest of South America, because I can't say because I wasn't there, but I know that Argentina and Uruguay were well into the Akashic Records.
Oh God, yeah.
Back 14, 15 years ago, there was already people training people. It was already a thing.
Mm-hmm. The same thing with family constellations that I'm studying now.
Yeah. I remember we would go to family constellations. Yeah, we would go to get Akashic Records readings, and this was 15 years ago.
It's so funny because you think about it, it's like the same way somebody would be like, oh, I'm going to go to do therapy, or I'm going to go see a doctor. You just go get a family constellation session or a Akashic Record reading. And
your friends would be like, dude, they would hear you suffer or go through something and be like, dude, go get a reading.
Yeah, go get a reading. Yeah. Go get some clarity. Go understand this deeper. Like, it'll help ease your mind. It'll help you feel more at peace. It's always the case.
And it's like maybe 3 years ago it started becoming more, or maybe 4 years ago it started becoming more of a thing in the States and Canada,
I love it.
And Australia. Like it's just like Europe's starting to pick up on it now. I think Europe is a little bit behind on it.
Europe's way more advanced in family constellations because family constellations originated with Bert Hellinger in Germany.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I think in that sense there are a lot of European countries where if you do live in Europe and you're interested, look up somebody in your area. Yeah. For sure, there's somebody there.
But Akashic Records are a little bit behind than the rest.
It's just different. Yeah, there's a different energy to it. They're very different instruments and modalities.
Yeah, of course.
They can complement. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. Anyway,
we were talking about the Akashic Records. I was saying in Europe is a little bit behind, and the States is more. It's more advanced a little bit there. Anyways, I'm just saying that because Lorena and I have been doing this for 14 years, and so we've had the time to kind of like learn to read our own, have the time with that, learn to read others, and like been reading for all these years, and there's things you learn. Like any job you might have, there's like things you learn that. Maybe you were taught it or maybe you weren't, and just the practice of doing that at your supposed, in this case, work or your job, you started learning them. And so we gathered in those courses, if you haven't done them, we've gathered all the information of all those years, plus the fact that we opened up our Akashic Records and we channeled all the information. and then everything we did learn that we were taught on top of that. So it's like 3 different kind of openings. It's what we're taught by our teachers, but what we learned in the experience of the years that we did it, plus our channeling from the Akashic Records, we brought that all together into the course. So, and it's not to toot our own horn, sort of say.
We kind of are, but yeah.
But I think that they're
it is
freaking
good,
amazing. Like, we leaked everything we could into those courses.
We put a lot of energy, a lot of
and
love.
I don't think you're going to get it, because I know the most common form these days to learn the Akashic Records is a book. I don't think you're going to get the experience from like
a lot of the people that came to do our courses, because we used to do these courses on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then it became a little too much energetically because we were trying to be there for people.
And it was so many hours of like,
it's 2 days. There's a lot. And maybe someday we'll pick that up. We're not sure. We'll see.
We might. I'm not closing that door, but for now, I think that this is convenient because people are really busy. This is they can do it their own time.
And I think, that can be like a double-edged sword. Some people are like, yes, I can do it in my own time, but then they don't do it.
Yeah.
So you have to schedule
Get on it, guys.
Like,
I
have that problem with a couple of courses I'm trying to do that are more creative courses.
It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way, and then you signed up and you started it and you didn't finish it.
You're like, oh no.
So if you did, this is a reminder.
Keep going and don't give up.
This.
But I want to say something about level 2 because I think it's interesting. What I felt personally when we were creating the course that to me felt really important to include was what we put in towards the end. Because I think a lot of people, and this to me feels like I literally get goosebumps just talking about this. When you go into level 2, you're usually going into it, you feeling called because you want to help others, you want to be of service, right?
Yeah.
So where I really struggled at the beginning was getting out of my own head of like the business side of it, and that this could be something that you go into and work in, and this could become your quote unquote job. It could sustain you, or it could be a really beautiful, purposeful purpose and mission we're going to talk about in a second, like side hustle that you still love the job that you have, but you want to do something more.
Or maybe you bring down the hours of what you do, and this is
you
the
go
other
part-time
thing
and you do. So we put in information towards the end of level 2 that really just highlights like advice and information on how to manage things and what we think is important. And part of that we're also talking about in the community, in our Soul Tribe podcast community, where we're organizing ourselves to just start to talk about different aspects of business as a healer.
The conversation in the group has lately been like, what computer are you guys using? What hardware? Like,
what software is this? And what do you advise on this? And
it's hard. It's hard to create your own thing.
It's so much to think about. Yeah. Some people are really tech savvy. Some people are very, very... They're already on social media, but not a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And it's not all about social media, but you have to put yourself out there, and that's I think that's probably the hardest part for a lot of us, myself included, like putting up videos and stuff. But I share what I feel like has worked for me. You kind of do too, and it gives you like an introduction and pretty much a lot of the base information that you need to just start your business. Yeah. You obviously have to practice and all that, but it's great.
Well, for me, it's like we also, I think that the big part of at least level 2, because level 1 you have your own permission to own your Akashic Records. Like there's nothing to like oversee there. But level 2 is you're opening someone else's Akashic Records, and there's a whole section where we talk about like, or a whole moment where we talk about like respect,
responsibility,
and responsibility, and like we found out, we didn't know this, but we found out when we started doing the Zoom classes that there are people that go and like open up famous people, quote unquote, Akashic Records, or like well-known figures from history. They don't have the permission. Like,
don't even go that far. Like outside of the Akashic, what happened to you? That experience that you talked about.
Yeah, but like it's
crazy.
It's more like
that's something we really are very serious about with the course.
Yeah, so,
like it's us. You cannot do this kind of work if you're not going to be responsible and you're going to be very careful. It's not your information. It's somebody else that's opening and being vulnerable, and you're there to help them.
If you're like going to, I've never seen any of these videos. People talked about it. I was like, oh, I didn't know they were doing that. But let's say that there's a YouTube video and the person's going on about, I don't know, Albert Einstein. They opened up the Akashic Records of Albert Einstein, right? First of all, that person does not have the permission to read the Akashic Records of Albert Einstein. It's highly probable they're being intervened or intercepted as a channel, because there is no permission. You wouldn't open it. So somebody's giving you information. I'm not sure who to do it. I'm just giving an example, right? Mm-hmm. And third as well is that's actually like a free will law that you're trying to break right there, because Albert Einstein did not give you the right to open his Akashic Records. So you're breaking a free will law there. There could be consequences by you even thinking and trying to do it. So you have to, don't just follow anybody. It's like really, you have to be really careful.
That goes for everything.
And if you're watching one of the YouTube video where it sounds really gossipy and they're giving a lot of personal information of someone else that's not them, they're probably being intercepted as a channel. That's my opinion. So I would be like, let's disregard everything I just heard because Albert Einstein did not just give that person permission to read their Akashic Records, for example.
Yeah, and just follow your gut. Most people are I think most of you guys that are listening to the podcast are on this journey of spirituality, or listening to yourselves. Like, this goes for anything, not just the Akashic Records. Like, if somebody or something you're hearing or something you're watching just feels off, listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. There might be something there that they're trying to sell you something or trying to put something in your head, and you're just... There's a lot of that out there. And that was like an episode we were going to do with Foster and Christos, remember? Like false gurus. I don't think we ever did
this
that,
was
right?
the year false gurus. Remember Foster had said that? Yeah. That's really important because I think people think about like the dark side, like the opposing side of evolution, I like to call it these days. But like the dark side, like if the dark side's going to work, they're smart. They've dedicated their whole existence to trying to entrap beings that are trying to ascend. And we're in third density. The majority of them are in fourth. So they're a dimension sort of say above us, right? They know things that we haven't figured out yet. We're in the middle of ascending. And so they're super smart, and they'll convince you through channels. They'll convince you through even tarot readings. Like if somebody's in a bad place or in a bad energy space or something's going on, even the best of the channelers, if having a really bad week, like they could possibly be intercepted if they're not taking the precautions. Like it could happen to anybody. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's unhackable, sort of say, in that sense, right? And so just...
We talk about that in the course too.
Yeah, we talk about it in the course too, like how to protect your channel and all those things, which, by the way, we ended up channeling because I had realized that it was happening, and it had happened to me more than once, and so I'm sincere about it. And I'm like, you know what? I realized that it's really easy for them to tap into people. And so I think that it's important that, like you were saying, in other words, you're saying discern, but they're smart. These beings are really advanced, really evolved. Even though they're not, like, ascended, they're still very evolved mentally. They've had the time to do that, the millions and thousands of years. And so they're going to go and they're going to try to convince you through whatever means they need to get you to think of a whatever for their convenience. And who knows what the twists and turns bring with that. But anyways.
Yeah, you don't know.
Try to wrap it up. We think about all these things for the course. And I just wanted to make sure to say that because it's not just a course where, like, I'm going to be like, la, 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 the world's awesome. Open your Akashic words. It's this is something to take into consideration. That's something to take into consideration. This has happened to us before. This is how we fix it. This has happened to us, and blah, blah, blah. Like, all these
experience.
things.
This is what's happened. This doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, but we share what we have.
With the 14 years of experience, we've had our downfalls and our uplifting moments. Yeah. Like, we go through them all, and so we were able to bring that into our classes. So
bring it into existence.
Mm-hmm. We did have people that had done other courses with other people that I don't know, some of them. And then people that had gone through the route of, like, reading books, and they were like, I couldn't open them. And so they ended up coming to
I
our
like
course.
that you said that because it's don't give up.
Yeah.
Just because one method didn't work doesn't mean that another
Or maybe you
might
didn't
not.
hear it with your ear the way that you needed to.
Yeah.
Or understand it.
It needs to everything, all the info, and there's a lot of information.
I did that, remember?
Yeah,
I did level 2 times because the first teacher did not resonate with me.
I did level 1 twice as well.
Yeah?
And that helped me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did level 1, and then I did level 2, and then I was like, ooh, no, like, and it didn't feel right the way they're explaining it. It didn't feel right the way they, like, were seeing the Akashic Records. And then I did it with another teacher level 2, and that's when it, like, sunk in for me.
Yeah, it was like limiting the first person.
So limiting. It was like, you can't this, and this doesn't happen, But like, wait, what? Then everything that helped me out didn't exist.
Gosh.
It was just like, it went against everything.
Yeah.
It went against everything that had already healed me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Yeah,
it's going against everything that you actually lived.
And if you had known me, you knew that I went from complete rage of a human being to, like, enlightened to be like, oh my God, I want to do this. I want to help people.
Yeah.
Like, so what they said to me in those readings actually changed me and helped me. And now I had a teacher in level 2 that was telling me everything that I had received, that was not true.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And I was like, I can't do this.
And there's different schools to everything, right? Even I think in, like, family constellations, I'm learning now that there's different branches There's different theories. So I think the Akashic Records is a bit of that too, from the different schools that we saw in South America.
Yeah.
I don't know. In North America, it's different. People have their own courses.
It's different. South
I
America is
think
a bit
now
more,
it's more about channeling and receiving and teaching.
Well, actually, South America might have changed because we're talking about what it was like 15 years ago when we started on the path, and it was like really strict.
We say 15. We've been saying 15 for the last 5 years. It's probably been 20 years now. Like
I'm
what?
still 20 years old. How old are you, Lorena?
No comments. No. But yeah. Okay. So let's wrap up with the. I want to make one last comment before we get started on the episode. We
did start the episode.
Yeah, we did, but we didn't go into
now.
the topic at hand, which is important. I'm really passionate about that. My rates will be going up in August. So what I'm doing now is from Monday, this episode comes up, Monday, I think it's the 17th of July, until the 31st of July. So basically just doing a bit of a sale. So I'll post that on... I'll link that here. If you have any doubts, check my social media. It'll be up for about 2 weeks. And then in August, my rates will be going up because I have not put up my rates in a couple years, actually.
Inflation's a thing, Lorena.
I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
Yeah.
But not only that, it's not just that. It's more of the message. I feel like also as healers, and you learn this in level 2.
Yes. The value.
The value system. And I think it has been a huge journey of mine of valuing my time. I have a hard time with boundaries sometimes. And yeah, I think I've been trying to push this message that they've been giving me for like 6-7 months now. Longer, actually, probably a year. And I keep saying, no, it's fine. I'll just leave it like it is. And you tend to feel as a healer when you're not getting the proper compensation. It's energetic, right?
You end up getting more tired.
You end up getting more tired. You're exhausted. It's like you don't look forward to the work as much. That's not necessarily what's happening to me, but it's all energetic and it's always constantly evolving. We have to remember that. Things can't stay the same. You have to be evolving in every sense of the way.
Yeah.
And as readers, we progress and we become stronger channels. So I think that's part of that energetic exchange as well. So I'll put the link to my sale. It'll be on my website. I'll also be running a giveaway in August, I believe. I'm on my website directly, not on social media. So make sure that you subscribe to my newsletter. I'll put that link here too. All right, let's get started with the topic at hand. Lucia.
So we were saying that sometimes these things can be confused when you're getting an Akashic Records reading, and you have a purpose. Your soul comes into every incarnation. Your soul comes into it with a projected or calculated or thought out mission. Call it purpose. To me, mission and purpose are the same thing. Your purpose to be here is this. Your mission is this, right? And so that for me is usually could be something as big as I'm here to bring love to the world, or could be something as small as I'm here to express my freedom. I'm here to be heard. I'm here to speak my truth. I'm here to stand up for myself. I'm here to, live and create the reality I want. I could go on.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
And on. And the soul can have one purpose, can have a few. It could have you could get Akashic readings and they tell you, no, you're here what part of your mission purpose is this, and this, or you could just have one thing noted. It depends on each soul and their current contract. There's no rules there. There's no limiting lists of how many things it could be listed, or it can only be one, or it can only be 3.
There's no specific formula.
No,
right?
there's no formula there.
It's unique to each soul.
Yeah. And then we have something which would be karma, and some people like calling it lesson. And I remember very, very clearly the first time I ever got an Akashic Records reading, I said, I would like to know what karma I'm here to pay. That's how I said it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my soul gave it to me, guys. This soul, she spoke to me because, the lady who reads me, if you know her, she's very delicate.
Very,
and very sweet. Yeah. And she's like, I would like to inform you that your word, oh my God, my soul, the whole reading was like, da, 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 da. She was so rough on me. I left going, damn.
That sounds brutal.
Because I was so off track that she had to be so firm with me. There was no other option. And so I remember her saying, I would really like to inform you that there's no payback. Karma isn't payback. Karma are lessons. And so this stuck with me, and it took me so many years to absorb it. And then after I became a Akashic reader, I started finally understanding it, because you read other people's records, and by the way, that's when you learn more.
You learn so
You do
much
not
more.
learn a crap load when you're reading yourself. You learn a ton when you're reading other people.
Yeah.
And that's when I finally understood that karma isn't payback. It isn't an eye for an eye. Karma is basically, this lesson wasn't absorbed or properly learned. It's still pending. So let's bring it back into the next lifetime. And it comes in. Call it karma or call it lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think of it as debt, and don't think of it as payback. I think we need to change the perspective on it, because then it becomes something super heavy for us.
Yeah, and I think we have to look at it in the soul sense, right? I think the way you're describing is great. Our soul will, if you ever had a reading or ever get a reading, you'll understand this. There's never this thing of like, because you were this in this past life, you're going to have to go through all this really hard stuff. It's payback to your soul because your soul did something. It's never in that energy, right? We've experienced everything in different lives. We've been on both sides of the spectrum of being really giving and amazing, and this energy of just like pouring love out to others, and others where we've probably been more selfish, or we've killed somebody, or we've murdered somebody, or we've been a thief or something, right? We've experienced it all, and some of us are still going to keep experiencing that in future incarnations. But our soul will never look at it that way. Our soul just sees everything as something that it's learning from. So if we can get into that energy, I think we can understand that karma isn't about payback. It's something that's still pending.
Yeah.
And we talk about that as karmic pending lesson sometimes. Not always will it be pending lesson. Right? For example, when your soul might just have to learn a lesson, but it might not be pending karmically.
Well, then if it's a lesson that it hasn't learned, then it's a lesson that's
It
pending.
might be a new lesson. No, it's not pending because you didn't. It's not pending.
It didn't get to it.
It didn't get to it yet.
That's pending. That's the definition
For
of pending.
For me, pending is when you didn't learn in a past life, so it can come in even more difficult.
Well, that could be a repeat.
Yeah, I use the word pending, like a pending karmic lesson. But it's not pending because the soul is all about light, right? And when you're learning something, it's just something new that your soul's chosen to learn.
Yeah.
It's not pending because you haven't tried to experience that yet.
It's pending
choosing.
for your ascension. You cannot
It's
ascend
pending
without
for
it.
your ascension, but not pending for your soul contract.
It's residual from a soul contract, but it would be pending, as in you can't pass. So your soul. This is where the cosmic information comes in. That it helps me
I'm looking
understand.
at how we put it in the course.
Huh?
I was thinking about how we put it in the course.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about it in general, because you're saying like if it's pending, it means it could only. Wait, what did you say again?
I'm saying that a lesson could be here not because you didn't learn it in a past life. It could be here because your soul just needs to learn it.
Yeah, pending.
It's never experienced.
Yeah.
So what would you call a lesson that you have to repeat?
I mean, I don't know what word I would give to it.
I think I believe in the course we put pending. That's why I'm using that term here, so I don't confuse people that have studied.
But also the word pending, you can use it for something that has not been brought in yet, because
It's
stopping your soul from ascension.
Your soul it's pending on the list of things in the greater scheme of things that your soul needs to learn, but not pending in the sense that you didn't learn it, that you had an opportunity to learn it and you didn't.
Yeah. So, for example, in the course, in the karma course, we talk about how when you have a repeat lesson, aka karma coming in from another lifetime, the more the soul has to repeat it and bring it into every incarnation, the more difficult it gets to do it. So it's like they always say it's better to do it the first round.
Yeah.
Because the next 2 rounds and 3 rounds is going to it comes in harder and harder and harder.
Generally does.
Yeah. Some people get triggered by that, actually.
Or your soul can be... this is what I found through readings. Like, your soul can get really... It's like when it puts together the soul contract to incarnate, it can get so specific with things. Mm-hmm. Of saying, like, the missing piece that was happening or that wasn't occurring in that past life that could have helped you learn it,
yes.
I'm going to include it in this incarnation so you finally get it.
Yeah.
But it's still going to feel really freaking hard, but
it's
it might not be...
a very emotional one.
Yeah, it can be because it's running in the family, because it's been happening for generations in the system, the family system that you've incarnated into. And you've basically been... And that's where I feel like a lot of people are experiencing this now, where it's also part of them helping heal that for the entire generational.
So that's what I would call
line.
resonance. So it's like your soul obviously said, oh no, I don't know, maybe it's easier if we name a lesson or something. Let's say, what can you think of?
Like grief, emotions of starting to express and connect, and
like I don't know, expressing your emotions. Let's say that something the soul wasn't able to do in a lifetime was properly express or speak its truth or express its emotions.
Yes, I like that.
So then it comes back into another lifetime. It comes into a family that doesn't speak their truth, and people ignore and we're not going to communicate about it. We're just going to pretend like it never happened. And so now it becomes a thing that's feels super dense and complicated, because not only is it already something my soul hasn't been able to accomplish yet,
there's
but
a resistance from your environment.
Exactly.
Completely. Generations back.
Exactly. That's how karma gets difficult in every lifetime. And it's a resonance thing. I love how Matthias Stefano talks about it. I remember hearing him talk about it once, and I'm like, yes. You know when someone says it in a way where it clicks even more?
Yeah.
He said in a way, he goes, the resonance of where you are, so how you die is super important. And in this case, a lot of our souls are going to be like ascended. This is the last lifetime for a lot of souls that are here. I mean, for the younger ones, maybe the ones that are older, they could have one more lifetime. But the majority of us around the age 30 to 40, this is the last one. And so our resonance is important in that case. Like the energy, what I mean by resonance in cases, like what is the vibration, the energy, the thought form, the way you're feeling, the way you are in general. What's your vibration, the moment of death, is going to define to what level of dimension you ascend in that case. But in the case of a reincarnation, it's going to be a hit or miss with, like, if you die and you die angry and upset and really bad, it probably is going to bring the soul it cannot mesh with a family that doesn't have the same resonance. So it's going to go into a really dark, deep environment possibly, right?
That's so interesting.
So let's say that this soul had the karma lesson pending of not expressing their way. They died with that pending. They died not speaking their truth. Maybe they even died of cancer in the throat. Like, I've had readings where it shows up where the person asks about someone that has throat cancer, and then I don't know what cancer they have, and I tell them about them not speaking their truth, and then they died of that. Like, our sicknesses also reflect.
There's symptoms of something bigger.
Yeah, and so let's say that the person also it was so extreme that they didn't speak their truth, and they didn't express themselves, that they ended up getting cancer, throat cancer, passed away from that. And so the resonance of that soul is, I don't express myself, I don't speak my truth. And then they have to reincarnate, and the soul goes, let me try this again. But the resonance of the soul is at a place where that's the environment's going to go into a family that doesn't speak their truth. On top of the fact that the soul's okay with that, because I still need to learn this lesson, and I'm going to fully submerge myself in it, because now it's even more important to do it.
When you're saying that people aren't going to incarnate anymore, you mean on Earth?
On Earth.
Okay.
On Earth.
Okay. I was like,
well,
whoa.
No.
I'm not getting that. I haven't gotten that message.
Well, yes, some people won't come on Earth, but some people will not incarnate at all. There's two paths for every soul. Every soul that's here on Earth right now, eventually, most of us are on our last incarnation on Earth. If you're not, it's because you have one more, so you'll probably, in the next 20, 30 years, your body will pass away and you'll come in as a baby, but then that will be the last one. So that's where we're all at. Because if your soul decides to come in again on Earth, then you're going to be here for another 26,000 years. And most of the souls have already done that for 13 or 26,000 years here. So majority of us have decided that. I would say, like, the majority. But the two paths are, and this is where Cosmic You information of my classes come in, but, like, the majority of the souls are going to either decide to go back to their original star systems and keep incarnating. This is a decision the soul makes, not me, Lucia, or you, Lorena. So this is a decision the soul has already made, even before this incarnation. It could be revisited during the incarnation, but it's basically a decision that was already made before this incarnation we're living in now. And so the soul's either going to start its ascension back to source. And that could be becoming part of the administration, becoming part of the angelic team, becoming part of the archangels. That's why people are obsessed with angels, whatever. Or it could be that the soul says, I don't want to go up there yet. Let me go over there. I want to go back to Arcturus. And
that
have
makes us
there.
really getting into our purpose and mission and all this healing even more important.
Yeah.
So much more important, so we don't leave anything pending.
This incarnation, out of all of them, is the most important to step into your purpose and your mission. Like, there's no more time. I've had readings where people were talked to firmly, like, there's no more time. And you'll have a lot of, like, that light, what's it called? I call it about la spirituality, where it's like everything's la la la, and that's great. I think that there's a positive to everything, because I'm all about being empowered and positive. But the reality is that you can feel the energies coming every day. We're on a time crunch to get to the place we need to. Our souls need to get into action and make the changes now because it wants to ride that wave. And if you're staying in your limiting world with your limiting programs, the soul can't do that. It's dependent on you and what decisions you make with your free will. So I have had a few readings where they might have been a little bit firm with people, and it was like, my soul did it to me.
Yeah.
Bah, 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 bah. She was very firm with me because I had to be here today, being able to talk to people and do the things that I've been doing for the past year. And if she didn't talk to me firmly, I wouldn't have gotten there. But usually with most people, they're very delicate and they're very nice and they give a lot of empowering messages, right? Like that's like the, what would you call it? What's the word?
It's not the norm.
It's not the norm.
Yeah.
It's not the norm. But it depends on the soul. Like my soul, she was very firm with me.
Yeah, I think you probably needed that. It depends on what you need at that time in the day, the reading, and where you're at.
I don't think I would have listened to her as much if I didn't hear.
It kind of shook you.
It jolted me.
It jolted you. That's the word. Yeah, I love that word. Jolted you. Yeah. So, I like the way you've explained that, and I think where people confuse it can be because this is what I said earlier, where sometimes I see this a lot actually with people in their purpose and mission, and we'll get into purpose and mission in a second, we'll explain that fully, where a lot of people haven't gone into fully their gifts in past lives. And it could have been a different gift in a past life. Maybe in this life it's to be a reader or be a healer, but in a past life it could have been to express themselves creatively or to do this thing, or they always felt lifetime after lifetime that they could have been in situations where it felt like, I've seen this in readings, where they couldn't do the work that they needed to do or felt that they needed to do. So it becomes even more important in this lifetime, not just because of everything you've just spoken about. For a lot of us, it's why we probably hate our jobs or why we hate what we're going through and why it feels like, it's like, why are other people doing it and they don't feel that dread that I feel when I go to work? It's because you've probably felt that dread lifetime after lifetime because you weren't listening to what you needed to be doing in that lifetime. You were limiting yourself. So it becomes something that becomes so unbearable that I think in this lifetime a lot of people are feeling that push to really get into their purpose and mission fully.
And
not tiptoeing, like doing it, like freaking go in, dive in, stop doubting yourself.
But it's also with the energies coming in, it's really hard to not be like, question it. It's like those energies coming in now, it makes us go, wait, what? There's something more.
Yeah.
It pushes you.
So let's explain purpose and mission, and then we can explain where.
So we just talked about karma and lesson, and then so purpose and mission is basically, a purpose could be something as general as like, you're here to be a messenger. You're here to give messages to people. You're here to be a healer. Purpose could mean just living in complete vibration of love. So it's not something that's pending in the soul, as in like, you didn't get it done in another lifetime, or you can't ascend without getting this done, like we were just talking about. It's more like you signed up to bring this to the world.
Yeah, it's more in your soul. Your soul's chosen that for that lifetime.
Yeah, it's what it wants to be. It wants to express itself in that way. It's not that you didn't learn it. Your soul most probably did it already many times and nailed it. It's just something that you signed up to bring into the world. That would be the difference for me.
Yeah, and I think it also sometimes the main difference of us not going into the purpose and mission and going into it is how we feel in that incarnation. There's a complete disconnect when we don't go into it. We feel outside of ourselves. We feel sometimes lost. There's so many emotions around that. And I know sometimes we can get into our ego and think, well, what is it? I can't find my passion. Sometimes the journey's part of that too, of you finding it and connecting with it, right? For a lot of people, it was for me. In my case, I kept thinking of things of what could fulfill me, what could bring that. And I never in a million years thought it was going to be the spiritual path of being of service to others, even though there were tons of indicators. I just didn't trust myself. Yeah. And that's why I would say to people, my own self-love journey and me like seeing my own potential and seeing that I was capable of doing certain things, it was all part of the journey. I knew it wasn't the timeline that it needed to be.
Yeah, for me it was different because I fought it because I was told it since a little girl that I was here to give messages. Do you remember, grandma and mom all the time, you're here to give messages, because I don't know if everyone listening knows or heard the story with my grandma, but basically, I call her a grandma. She's not biological grandma, but she basically, I had a sickness, and she basically helped save me. And she was this like woman that lived in town that was a healer. Like, maybe another day we'll do another episode and talk about it, because I don't want to make it this whole thing because it's a long story. But basically, the first thing she said to my mother when my mother handed sick me over that I was like dying, she said to Mom that I was going to be okay, and that I was going to give messages to people when I was older. So that was like the initial message that was received, that I was going to be a messenger. But then she became like our grandma. She became family. And so I kept being reminded, hey, but you got to get into the spiritual path, and you're here to give messages. And so my rebellious side popped out, you know, especially in teenage years. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And so that was my purpose. And for me, it was something that was told to me in the beginning. That was like my mission, my purpose. But I fought it because it almost felt like I didn't have free will and I was being told it in a way. And I was just rebellious, which was probably part of the reason why my soul was like, bah, 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 when I had that reading. She gave it to me firm. But so you can fight. It can be a feeling of fighting it. It can be a feeling of not feeling, in your case, not feeling aligned with it, like not feeling worthy of it.
I didn't feel aligned with it, first of all, but I also didn't feel worthy of it when it came.
Yeah.
So for me, that was my own, that tied into a lot of my own personal things that I needed to work through in this life.
Yeah.
But my purpose and mission was pretty clear, and I'm in it now, and I can say honestly, like, I know that a lot of it might be tied to my own struggles personally. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to, but sometimes it feels like that. Not necessarily lessons, but just things that help us grow through our purpose and mission too. Some people don't have that. Some people just go into it and they're like, I'm free, I'm here, I'm just here to fully embrace it, and I'm not resisting it, and let's go.
I think that a lot of us are there now, but I think if you would have talked to most of us 5 years ago, we were not there.
No, we were not.
Like, we were kind of fighting it. And I think a lot of people were like, we had the program of, you have to have a normal job. The job, you know, you have to have this and you have to be doing that. We're so focused on how we were taught security looked, and how, like, normality is supposed to look, and how society expects us to act and be. And so I think that those programs that we were taught to help us survive by our families, by society, by school, by blah, 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 whatever, I think that those kept a lot of us off track.
Totally. And imagine if what's changed in 5 years, imagine in the next 5. Holy moly.
No, that's the plan.
It's going to be, I can already sense it. It's going to be insane. Like, people just going into what they need to do, and just everything shifting, our reality shifting.
Yeah. It's interesting because even the kind of people that come to readings now, like, you start getting people that are so open to it that you're like, I don't think I would have been, this person wouldn't have been open to getting reading 5 years ago. Like, we're getting really, really open-minded people now that are just leaping into it and not, like, doubting it and just trusting it. And it's cool because as a reader, if you began so long ago and you, like, see the progress of it all from where you are as a reader, you get to see the changes. Like, you're not told there's a shift in the consciousness and there's a shift in humanity and evolution. You're not just told it. We see it. Mm-hmm. Like, we experience it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. So purpose and mission isn't also, I want to say this, isn't necessarily a job.
Yeah.
A lot of people come to read and they're like, oh, my job, like, what's my purpose and mission? That's for most people, it's not a job. Yeah. Because even in my case, if I say that I'm here to be of service, that can be in so many different ways. I've chosen the Akashic Records is because it's what's, like, my soul resonates with. Yeah. But I can be doing family constellations. I can even be a therapist, a counselor. I could do Reiki. I could do so many things. You have to see what you resonate with. And I think a lot of it goes in our experience here on Earth and what we've lived, and that's where we need to listen. We have to listen internally. As long as we're in that purpose and mission, we can be doing anything that's within that. Yeah. That helps fulfill that emotion, that thing, that, like you said, it could be feeling free. For me also, freedom's a huge thing in my purpose and mission. This job, all of it being online, also fulfills that. There's quite a few things linked to it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's funny when you look back, you're like, I always felt I wanted that, but I didn't know how that was going to work. I figured, I'd be a photographer, or I'd do this or that. And now I'm like,
what you imagine freedom looks like.
Yeah, you imagine in your mind, but that's not from your heart, you know? Yeah. And I think what at one point could have made me happy, at another point didn't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, like, don't get fixed on what you think something should look like. Just kind of let things flow towards that area. Like, knowing that you deserve it, knowing that you're feeling it, recognizing you're feeling it, but then seeing how it leads you, how the universe leads you.
Yeah, and just because it's meant for you doesn't mean that you're going to be always certain of it, or that it's always going to be like this easy ride, right? Because it's not. And I think a lot of people get discouraged, and then they don't keep going.
Yeah.
And I think I think getting clear on what you feel your purpose and mission is, and a lot of people know it, because when they're told it in a reading, they're like, oh, I felt that,
Yeah.
You know that unconsciously or intuitively. So feed that in as much as you can in different areas of your life, from your routines to the relationships you have, to the people you choose to surround you, to if it can be part of your job too, because the purpose and mission can be spread out in different areas and different aspects of your life, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's gonna be different, because even for me as a reader coming into my life looked very different from how being a reader came into your life. So just because one person's story is a certain way doesn't mean that your story is here in a different way. But one thing I've noticed the Akashic Records lately, when I read people and they ask about their mission and purpose, and if it does have to do with service and things, I find that lately there's a lot of like really I don't know what word to use, but it's almost like people are here to bring, for example, Akashic Records reading, but I'm giving just an example, or like some sort of spiritual healer, but they're here to bring this component into it that no one else does.
Unique.
Very unique. That's the word.
They're doing it your way. And we push that in the courses that we teach too. Like, people ask, can I do this? Like, try it.
Yeah. So they'll be like, yeah, you're here to do this, but you're here to do it your way. So don't try to follow anyone else's like blueprint or way of doing it, because that's not what the universe needs from you.
And that's what we've been doing for too many years already.
Yes.
That's not what we're supposed to be doing moving forward anywhere. And none of us.
Yeah.
We're all supposed to be doing, like, even this is where I'm going to talk about something personal, but even the workshops I was talking about in the last episode, right? That I started offering these workshops, these family system and ancestral healing workshops to some of the community members. And it's something I'm going to be offering to my clients in general, and it's something I'm going to keep offering quarterly on the community. But I kept getting stuck in my head because it's not family constellations. It's something that's connected to the Akashic Records and something I was already doing in readings, but it's going a little further. And it's something that I felt like my guides and masters were like, this is like it's like intermediate to something that you're moving into.
It could be just as good. It's just your way of doing it.
It is great. And I think it's a process that I need to go through, something I need to experience that others need.
Yeah.
But I keep getting in my head sometimes and think, well, that's not what my teacher said I should do, but I'm not doing what my teacher told me to do. This is something that I felt I needed to do, and it's still helping.
Yeah.
So we have to really catch ourselves,
Yeah.
in those moments and say, well, what's the feedback? What's your intention? How can you make it better? Is there something you can progress or expand? And that's what we're constantly on, that journey. So as long as you're in that energy, I think you're never going to feel stuck. You might feel stuck in a different way, but you're not actually stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so just listen to yourself and the way you feel after you finish a task. For example, when we finish Akashic Records reading, after, even if I had been exhausted the whole day, and then I open up the records, it's like I have energy because you're in.
Oh my gosh.
And then when you finish, you feel so good. Like, oh, even though I was exhausted before I got in, and I was wondering if I was going to have enough energy, ended up going amazing, and I feel so good that I did it. Like, that's the indicator to you that's the purpose mission. The way you feel when you just finished doing that.
Yes. And listening to your body too. I think there's moments where you can feel like today's not a day that I can be of service to somebody. Like, you have to be real with yourself.
Yeah, be respectful.
Yeah, and you find that out with time. I think, at one point I could have only done one reading a day. Today I can do X amount of readings a day. And I listen to my body. I'm like, more than that, and I can look at my schedule and be like, yeah, that feels right. I'm not putting anything there.
Yeah.
Because then I won't be able to show up for myself.
Yeah.
Or for others.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And that's something we learn with time. We figure that out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I hope this helped everybody understand the difference. What was the point between purpose mission versus karma lesson?
Yeah, I hope so too. If there's any other questions, just send them our way. We have our contact form on the show notes. I'll put all the links to everything we talked about at the beginning, from the sales to the community to also Lou's Cosmic You course. And yeah, we'll be back next week with a new episode. Love you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.